PB&J, PB&J, plátano con salami. What do these things have in common? Well, they're iconic duos. And today I'm gonna show you the most iconic of iconic duos, guava and cheese. We're making guava and cheese bread pudding. It's like flan and bread pudding had a baby, and it's delicious. But what really makes this special is that it's not my recipe at all. Actually, the origins of this recipe came from my husband's 101-year-old grandmother. So this is history in a bowl. So first you're gonna take your eggs and you're gonna pour it in your bowl and your sugar. You're gonna take your whisk and just start mixing this until it's all combined. Some would say to whisk it until it's pale, but I don't have the upper body strength for that. So we're just gonna mix it until it's nice and beautiful, like this. And then we're gonna take our butter and stream it in. Who doesn't love the smell of melted butter? So now that you have all of these ingredients in together, you're gonna take your vanilla. So add that in, give it a little mixy mix. Then you have your salt, your warm spices. Make sure that you mix the spices well, because nobody likes to bite into a clump of cinnamon or nutmeg. Here's your condensed milk. We're gonna do this one first because it's much easier to do it like this as opposed to when it's a lot more viscous. And now we're gonna add our evaporated milk. It seems like a lot, but this bread is gonna soak it right up. So we're gonna pour it in. It seems like there's a lot of liquid here because we're actually making a custard. We're making a custard? What? We're making bread pudding. But with this, we want it to be more creamy, like flan, almost encasing your bread so that it gives a little bit of texture and sponginess. It's gonna be awesome. As you can see, my bowl is almost filled to the brim with liquid. Adding more to this is gonna be catastrophic. So I'm gonna bring in my stunt bowl. So now we're going to get to my least favorite part. I mean, my favorite part, soaking the bread. So we're gonna take sourdough and we're gonna put it in here and let this guy sit in here and absorb all of this. But we actually have to submerge this, and I hate this feeling. I hate this feeling. Okay, but for you guys, I'll do almost anything. Ugh. Gross, but also delicious. Ugh. So we're gonna make sure that we're coating every single piece of bread with our delicious custard. Ugh. And now I'm gonna go wash my hands, and we're gonna make our caramel. So now we're gonna make caramel. We're gonna coat the bottom of our 10-inch pan to make it really look like flan. But we're gonna show you 2 ways to make caramel. It's gonna be the battle of the dueling caramels. Let's go. So first we're gonna do our wet technique. You're gonna take your sugar, your water. With the wet technique, you're gonna let this bad boy come up to a boil. Once all the water has evaporated, then it starts to turn into caramel. So when you're doing this process, you're gonna have to make sure that you're attacking all of your sugar crystals with your brush. This is really important because sugar crystals like to ruin your whole caramel. Even if you have 1 grain of uncooked sugar in this process, your whole thing would solidify with sugar crystals. So now that you have some sort of caramelization, we're gonna try to get in there without disturbing it too much and try to move our overactive side. Before we pour it, we're gonna give it a little mix. So this color is kind of like in between light amber and dark amber. We're gonna try to move our caramel. Be careful, this process is really, really hot, and also caramel burns, it really does. And let gravity do its thing. All right, so this is our wet caramel. Next, we're gonna try dry caramel. Okay, number 2, dry caramel. The difference between wet and dry caramel, it's literally, there's no moisture in this recipe. So things move a lot faster. You have to be really active with this one. For our dry caramel, we're gonna need some sugar and some heat. We're gonna make sure that we start by creating a little pocket so that we can see what's happening at the bottom of our pot. So you're gonna keep on moving your sugar gently so that one pocket of sugar does not burn. And you could take those out of there by turning off your heat and just pressing down and smashing them, and keep dissolving the sugar crystals until our caramel is smooth. As you can tell, sugar is pretty unpredictable, so if you don't want a lot of color in your caramel, wet technique is the best way to go. All done. So now that we've made our caramel, before we ladle our custardy bread pudding mixture into our pan, we have to cube up our guava paste. I'm gonna show you how, because guava paste is kind of sticky and tricky. You're gonna need a knife and some food spray. Gonna coat it in your spray, then you're gonna press down. Doing this allows your sticky guava paste to come right off of your knife. Misu, what do you think of the guava paste? I agree. So we're going for small to medium dice. Guava is a popular Latin American ingredient that we love to serve as a midday snack. You would think that it's a dessert, but for the most part, you could eat this midday with your cafecito, with a little bit of crackers and cheese, and it's just the best treat on planet Earth. I'm gonna clean my board and then we're gonna start our layering. So I have my pan lined with caramel. And if you see that it cracks, that's totally normal. It's just the caramel cooling and expanding and contracting. We're just gonna grab a few of these little chunks and pour it into our pan. I try to create an even layer before I put the first layer of my bread pudding on there so that there's nowhere for the guava or the cheese to escape from. Now that all the little nooks and crannies are filled up, we're going to sprinkle our guava around sporadically. It doesn't have to be perfectly placed. And it's okay if you don't use it all. And then we're gonna take our cream cheese. You can have it chunked or you can put it as dollops throughout your dish. Really get in between there and put a lot of that cheese. That cheese is gonna make sure that that sweetness from the guava gets subdued. Now our next layer, make sure you pat it down. And I'm actually draining off some of the liquid because I don't want to bombard my pan with the liquid right away so that I know exactly how much bread I'm able to put into this pan. So we're gonna try to put a little bit of that guava in the middle so that we really have that delicious flavor all the way through. Pretty content with this. I'm gonna grab a few more pieces and try to fill up my empty gaps here. Now, I see that there is a lot of liquid, but I think we can do a little more just so that that custard gets all around and really kind of traps all of that ooey gooey flavor. So I just covered my bread pudding with foil to protect the surface of the bread pudding because we have such a gentle cook on the bottom. We don't want to overcook the top. Now we're gonna put it in the oven. We're gonna make a baño Maria, Bain Marie, or a water bath to gently cook our custard so it doesn't curdle. We're gonna fill it halfway with water and put it into the oven. So now that we've taken our bread pudding out of the oven, we're gonna let it cool to room temperature on a wire rack. Afterwards, we're gonna put it in our refrigerator and let that cool overnight and then get ready for the big reveal. So now our bread pudding has been sitting overnight. We're gonna take an offset and we're gonna run our offset around the sides to make it easier for our bread pudding to unmold. I could already see the layers. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Make sure you get something that is able to grab some of the moisture if there's any. We're gonna press down to make sure that our bread pudding releases. So this is the big reveal. Let's see how we did. Oh my gosh. We did it! Oh, success. So here you have beautiful caramelization. I can see pops of the guava and I see a little bit of the cheese poking through. Oh my God, it's gonna be so wonderful. So I'm feeling a little fancy, and this recipe doesn't call for it. It's perfect as is, but I'm gonna slice up some mangoes and serve it on top. This is totally optional, but if you definitely wanna enhance the tropi-vibes, try this. So we've done it. We've made our guava and cheese pudding de pan. I can't wait to try this. Let's slice it open. Wow, look at this. Oh my goodness. All right, so let's take a bite of this guava and cheese bread pudding. It tastes creamy. The layers of the sourdough give it a tang. The guava is so good. Oh my God, and this cream cheese and that caramel on top, it just adds the perfect amount of sweetness to balance out the sweetness in the guava. Misu, what do you think? Here, a little bite. They ate all of it. Thanks, Misu. Enjoy.